Welcome to Advancing Accessibility, a mini podcast series focusing on the great work done by individuals pushing for accessibility in the gaming industry and answering the question, what's next? This show is brought to you by Player Research's Advancing Accessibility. To find out more about Player Research and this initiative, you can go to the link in the show notes or to playerresearch.com. I'm your host, Steve Saylor, an accessibility consultant, content creator, Twitch ambassador, and host of this series. And in today's episode, it's all about the blind games accessibility journey. And my guest today is award-winning accessibility consultant and content creator, Ross Miner. Ross, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk about blind game accessibility.
Heck yeah! And actually, I want to. We're gonna go back and start about your journey in and of itself, but I want to talk about the award-winning aspect because you just came back from South by Southwest, and for those who don't, definitely follow Ross on social media. There's a great video of you accepting the award there. But can you tell us a little bit? What was the, like, just for those who don't know, what was the award and what was sort of like how did that all happen for you?
Yeah, so oh man, like it definitely peak moment of my life because I was not expecting it at all. But basically, I was originally going to South by Southwest to participate on a panel about VR game accessibility, and I guess for people who, I'm not sure if it's for people who are presenting or what, but South by Southwest reached out to me and said that I had won a community service award. Basically 5 people a year get them, and it's part of like the Greater Innovation Awards award show. And
Yeah.
basically they wanted to recognize my work in accessibility, and like just I don't even know how like to describe how shocked and honored I was to get that, because I mean, like, thousands and thousands of people go to South by Southwest, and I was absolutely just floored. And it was, most of all, it was just so validating, you know, to have my accessibility, but just accessibility in general, be recognized at the Innovation Awards, because they're recognizing that, yeah, it's an innovation, and that, well, in my case, it's a service to the community, you know?
Sure.
And the cool thing about it, on top of it, is that I wasn't even the only one who won an award around accessibility. There are other people as well.
Cool.
So, yeah, it was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I will say it is extremely well deserved. So congratulations, sir.
Thank you so much.
I saw that, and I was just sitting here at home, and I was just like, hell yes. Like, that is so amazing to be able to, because I remember you talked about you were going to South by, and I was like, that would, like, with because I know the folks over at Alchemy Labs, and it was like so great to be able to see them there, and you being a part of that panel. It was I didn't get a chance to see the panel, but I was so glad to be able to see that you know, blind gamers are being represented in that way, and that was really cool. But then, yeah, to see you get it where I was like, that, yes. It's so great to see like good people be able to get other things that they deserve wholeheartedly. So congratulations again, sir.
Yeah, and like, just on top of that, like, people who win the award get a lifetime pass to South by Southwest. And so,
no
like,
way, really? Oh, that's
yeah,
cool.
like, it's ridiculously cool. And so I was like, just, I'm gonna go back every year, talk about game accessibility if I can, you know, just have that opportunity. Is so great.
That's so, I always love South by. I mean, I always like remember way back in the day, like that's where Twitter launched. Like, that's,
is it
like,
really?
Yeah, like when way back when they started the innovation track, that was like basically that's why a lot of web companies or tech companies go to South by, is because they want to sort of become like launch their product or service and go viral.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Twitter. Like, it basically blew up because so many people were interested in it at South by, and that's how Twitter got started. Because a lot of like tech people were interested in Twitter, like they were like one of the first sort of early adopters, and then, you know, then it just grew from there. But yeah, like, so you're part of a very prestigious history there, which is pretty great. So all right, so let's talk a little bit about yourself, because I mean we've hung out a little bit. We broke bread a year ago, but we never really had a chance to sort of sit down and chat and get to know each other a little bit. So I want to take this time to, you know, let's get to know Ross a little bit. Why don't you tell us just briefly, kind of like a little bit about yourself, and also if you're comfortable with it, talk a little bit about your specific disability.
Yeah. Oh man. So where do I even start? First, yeah, I'm totally blind. I've been a lifelong gamer ever since I can remember. I was not born blind though, so like a big part of my story is how I went blind and kind of how my story developed from there, how video games played into that. And so basically where it starts, um, I guess I'll just say like massive trigger warning.
Sure.
Uh, but basically when I was 8, so like back in 2006, my mother divorced my father, and so a lot of people these days call them family annihilations, and that is essentially what my dad did to me, my brother, and himself. And I was blinded from a gunshot, and I lost all my sight. I literally went to bed with sight and woke up in a hospital bed completely blind. And
Mm.
so obviously that was really hard for me. That was really hard
Mm-hmm.
for my mother, and just, had a massive ripple effect in the community. But this is where gaming comes into play because
Mm.
I mean, we all have our reasons for playing video games, whether it's escapism, socialization, the puzzles, like simulation, just so many different things. Well, for me, of course, I love the stimulation of video games.
Sure.
But I realized that I didn't want my blindness to prevent me from playing video games. And, when I was in the hospital, like my friends would come and like I'd listen to them play Pokemon, and I'd be like,
Mm.
"Oh, you just sent out a Pikachu, you just sent out a Groudon," and I was like, "Wait a minute. All these Pokemon have different cries." And
Mm-hmm.
then I kept listening. I was like, "Wait, I can tell which I remember this music. You're in this city, this town." And it got me just realizing I may be able to play Pokemon still. And sure enough, it was very tedious and painstaking, but I memorized all the sounds, all the cries, everything, so I could play with my friends at school. And this was a huge way to bridge that gap that many people with disabilities are aware of kind of like, being in your world and then being in the able-bodied world. And being able to play Pokemon showed me that, I can be part of their world, and it shows others that I'm capable of doing these things, that I'm just a kid, I'm just a person, my blindness doesn't make me different from you.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, like I continued to play, Pokemon growing up, and I would always think like, oh man, if they just added this, like I could completely play the game without any help whatsoever. But it was always kind of like a pipe dream, so to say. It's like, it'll never happen. Um, and I kind of grew up with this mindset of, oh, like just certain video games can be played, but the majority can't be. Um, and it's interesting how many blind people fall into this mindset of like, oh, I'm the only one who plays video games. Like there aren't others out there. And so it wasn't until like high school when I
Mm-hmm.
realized that there is a massive online blind gaming community. And that's when I got sucked into audio games. That's when I learned about Mortal Kombat. And because Mortal Kombat and fighting games in general are really popular amongst the blind community. And from there, it kind of all sort of came to a head when I did like an AMA on Reddit when I was in high school. And I had mentioned that I played Mortal Kombat, and everyone was like, wait a minute, how do you play Mortal Kombat? And so I posted a
Mm-hmm.
YouTube video. It went, viral relative back then,
Sure.
not like
Sure.
millions or anything, but you know what I mean? It got a lot of views. And
Yeah.
that's when I realized, like, not only do I want to play video games, not only do I realize that accessibility is important, but like the general public wants accessibility to be a priority in video games, whether, they explicitly or implicitly know it or not. Um, accessibility, these goals, um, people want to see companies work toward a good cause, and this is definitely one of those. And so that's kind of what started my content creation journey. And I mean, I've done all sorts of things, like went to college, competing in the Paralympics, but like through all of that, game accessibility was what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And on YouTube and on Twitch, because it's just something I always always believed in. And even then, like I thought it was kind of just a hobby, but like I mean, it's just a snowball effect. And that's how I found other content creators like you and Super Blind Man and like so many other disabled creators. I'm like, this is a movement. And so pretty much like when the pandemic hit, I retired from the Paralympics, and I was like, I'm going to focus on game accessibility full time. Like this is what I need to do. And Yeah, I mean, long story short, now I'm here in Los Angeles, and I couldn't be happier with what I'm doing.
I love that, and it's such a wide and varied journey for sure. And actually, because and what's interesting, so part of this episode is like, so my, of course, my disability is I do have a sort of some blindness. Some people would say it's low vision or visually impaired. Like so, but
Blind.
I love I'm loving. I love the fact that both of us are on this episode because it really kind of showcases the spectrum of blindness, and that it's never
Yes.
just an on-off switch. And
Hmm.
we kind of come from different sort of perspectives of blindness. Because for me, growing up, I didn't unfortunately I didn't have that moment with gaming, in that I could be able to like I was like, oh, you know what, like I could be able to do this, because I just thought,
Hmm.
oh, games were just weren't meant for me, and that I just sucked at them. So I
Hmm.
kind of had given up a long time ago. And like, even when I was involved in sort of the geek and nerdy culture and throughout high school and college, gaming was always just something that, oh yeah, my friends can do, but I can never really do. It was
Hmm.
honestly like, once I started getting into like content creation on YouTube, and then also like joining sort of the accessibility community, that I really, that in a way I started to kind of see more than just one person who was blind who was playing video games. Like, it was
Hmm.
such a rare thing for me, and this was like until like I didn't see this until my 30s. So to you,
Yeah.
able to experience that early on and being able to jump into those forums and finding other blind gamers and finding audio games, like I only just discovered those a couple of years ago, just because
Yeah.
it wasn't even on my radar. I didn't even know that was a thing
Yeah.
growing up.
That's exactly how I was too. Like, and like, yeah, granted, I may have gotten to that realization like earlier, but like, I mean, there are some people who are like, oh yeah, I've always been playing audio games since I was a kid. And I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I just had no idea that they were even things.
Sure, and that's the thing, because you probably could think, because I wanted to mention that. So for your realization, was in, actually in video games. For me, actually, was Star Trek.
Really?
Yeah, well, because I grew up. I that was my first sort of nerd love. Like
Hmm.
that was when I realized, oh yeah, no, I'm like, I like the geeky nerdy things.
Hmm.
That was my was Star Trek, and it was watching that, as sitting super close to the TV and trying to be
Hmm.
able to see as much detail as I could. But when I saw the character Geordie LaForge was there, what sort of the turn that made that click for me, I was like, you know what, I'm not letting, I shouldn't let my disability sort of control me, but I can be like, I'm more than just my disability.
Hmm.
Was when I realized that Geordie was blind, but he
Hmm.
was the chief engineer of the biggest and the best starship in all of Starfleet.
Hmm.
And so if he was in charge of all the tech, all the gadgets, and all the ins and outs of the workings of a ship, and he was able to
Hmm.
do that while blind. Sure, he had an assistive equipment with his visor, but he was able to do that while being blind. It made me
Oh,
realize,
that's
like,
so
I could
cool.
accomplish anything.
Yeah.
And that was sort of like, I always say that a lot of people's may not realize that when you have a disability, you kind of sort of adopt, or you learn a superpower, and that is adaptability.
Hmm.
Like, we're able to
Yes.
adapt to the world around us in much easier, much faster than others who don't have a disability, because we have to adapt to our environment.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when you were playing those video games, like, it's funny enough you mentioned Pokemon. Like, you and
Hmm.
fellow guest of the show, Grant Stoner, would get along extremely well. You both love Pokemon so
Yeah,
much.
definitely. I follow him. I love his
Yeah.
stuff.
So so when you had that like realization with Pokemon, you realize, oh, like there's things that could, like, if they could do this and this. When did you start being able to realize you can be able to adapt to, your own abilities in your own body to being able to play video games at a time where blind accessibility wasn't, or even accessibility in general wasn't even a thing?
Yeah, I mean, ah man, so really like playing Pokemon has helped me in the real world in many different
Oh.
ways. Yeah, so like growing up, I've always been told that I've had like really good orientation like of my surroundings as a blind person. And I really attribute a big part of that to playing Pokemon because yeah, there's like the cognitive load of memorizing everything, but I also really had to learn to build a mental map. And like same in Pokemon, stay aware of my surroundings. I had to do that in the real world as well. And so I think it really just helped me improve my hearing, honestly, and just kind of be more sensitive to those things. And like, I mean, even within Pokemon, there are sometimes I'd have advantages of over a sighted person.
Hmm.
Like for example, there are areas where like caves, where you
Sure.
have like no light. It's just like this little circle of light around your character, and that's it. Uh,
Hmm.
that didn't affect me at all. So like I could get through those caves faster than a sighted person, or like
Yeah,
when
because
you
seriously,
find
like,
it.
what's the difference?
Yeah,
Between the
exactly.
area.
Exactly. And it's like when you find a shiny Pokemon, like, it plays a sound. And so
Mm.
um I think things like that really kind of showed me that yeah, I can play video games too, and sometimes better than sighted people. And so it's like, what would it be like if this game was intentionally made accessible?
I love that. So let's jump into, because you said, you mentioned, you kind of just breezed over this, but I mean, you were a Paralympian. Let's talk about that for a second, because I want to, and I can tie this into video games. So when you started to go down that path of being a
Mhm.
Paralympian, was there anything in, like you said, with sort of your adaptability with Pokemon, was there anything that in gaming that helped you become a better Paralympian?
Oh man. So first I would say definitely the concept of like repeating something over and over to get it perfect or as close to as perfect. Because I mean that's what I had to do growing up my entire life, playing games without any accessibility features. And same thing in the Paralympics. Like, so I was specifically a swimmer, and like you have to really have to have a feel for your body, and like hand placement absolutely matters. And so you got to
Sure.
do it over and over for hours and hours and days and weeks to get it perfect. And so like that's something that kind of like it. I don't want to say it was a breeze for me because it definitely wasn't. It was very hard work, but like it was
Sure.
kind of something I was already used to in a way. Um, and I would say, yeah, that's definitely the biggest one. Is just like the repetition of it all really helped out a lot. Um, Really, other than that, I would say they are kind of different, like fields of memorization.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think it just kind of just playing video games built that determination to kind of compete.
Okay. No,
Hmm.
that makes total sense. Like, I can definitely see
Hmm.
the correlation there as well. Like, well, because yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of things you have to think about. Like, oh, you just swim in a pool. Like, no, it's a lot more than just that. Like,
Yeah,
like as you said, because like being able to like you have to have your arms and your hands and your legs in very
yeah.
specific positions.
And like it's also patterns as well. You like in a
Mm,
video game, like if you're fighting a boss, you got to find the patterns. Well, in the Paralympics, like when you do a flip turn, in the pool, everyone's different. You have to know how many strokes before you need to do a flip turn. You have to count how many
mm.
strokes it takes you to get from one end of the lane to the other. And finding those patterns, like being detail oriented like that really goes a long way.
Okay. Did it just
Mhm.
like did you eventually, like when you started, like was you like were you like counting the different strokes and then figuring that out, or you just sort of like was it like after a while kind of like, oh no, I can do this by feel essentially.
Yeah, so basically the way I did it was so first you I always counted how long it took me from get to one end of the lane to the other,
Uh-huh.
no matter what. I would always keep that in my head. But then, so when a blind person is doing a flip turn, they have a person standing on each end of the pool, and they basically have this long pole with like a tennis ball on the end of it, and they tap you to let you know when you need to flip. Well, you kind of have to like coordinate with your tapper on when you like to be tapped. And so for me, if I remember correctly, I like being tapped like two strokes out. Um, so I have to remember how many strokes it takes to get from one end of the lane to the other, and then I have to remember how many strokes after I get tapped, and just like things along that line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was thinking about, whenever we'll play a game and we have to go up against a boss, like
Hmm.
we have to first sort of count, okay, how many times is it they do this specific attack, and then you know how
Exactly.
many seconds it takes for them to be able to do the next attack, and you have to
Mhm.
listening for those audio cues, and if you
Mhm.
do have a little bit of sight, trying to be able to memorize the animation pattern of those bosses.
Yeah.
But eventually, like like as you know as you said, like yeah, you're kind of trying to remember that. But I think it also, again, with fighting a boss, then when you start to do it in pattern recognition, it's you start to kind of feel for it a little bit and be like,
Mhm.
okay, I don't have to necessarily count as much, like, or you have just a sort of innate sort of feeling of like, okay, about five, he's done this about 5 times now, okay,
Mhm.
about ready to be able to do my this attack kind of thing. And so so the question is actually,
Mhm.
do you play, or can you play any like Souls like game, or anything that has like a pretty strong boss?
Yeah, well, I know this isn't like a Souls-like game, but like last night I just defeated the lizard boss in Spider-Man 2, and that was really difficult. And
Oh,
oh
okay.
man, it was so difficult. But I mean, I did it eventually. I mean, in terms of like Souls-likes, I haven't really played many of them.
Okay.
I'm not like extremely familiar with the genre because I feel like they could be made more accessible. But like,
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. You wouldn't call like Hades a Souls-like? You'd call that like a roguelike, right?
That is
Or
definitely a roguelike, but I mean, it does
yeah.
have like some pretty strong bosses, which I was playing it today, and I still have yet to be able to
Uh,
get that one like successful run. I got to the boss though quicker than I did before,
oh, really? You
but
got all the way? Which
I got
boss? I
all the
don't
way to
want.
Meg. Meg was
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah.
Oh
So
man.
I've yet to beat her. I'm getting close. I'm getting
Yes.
close, but
Oh, it's such a fun game.
oh, I'm loving it. It's
Uh-huh.
so much a blast. But yeah, like, cause well, one reason why I asked regards to more specifically the boss. So let's focus on the lizard boss in Spider-Man
Mhm.
2. Were there anything that, like, was it a similar thing for you with, the things you learned as a Paralympian that you were able to sort of take into, like, okay, learning how to be able to defeat this boss, or did that knowledge basically was just always innately in you pretty much since you started you played Pokemon when you were when you lost your vision?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been innately in me. Just hearing others play video games or like playing video games myself. Because like obviously Pokemon, like you don't really have to like listen for like timing, right? But
Sure.
I did play like Super Smash Brothers, for example. Like that game was fairly blind accessible by design. Um,
Mm.
but like I said, like the Paralympics, like the knowing the patterns definitely times or plays into that because like um how do I like in the Paralympics, like doing a flip turn, you obviously like have to know when to flip, but then you have to know how deep you want to get in the once you plant your feet on the wall, because if you're too deep and then you push off, you may do a streamline deeper than you've intended. If you push off too high, then you're just going to go to the top of the water and not get any distance.
Mm.
And so like getting that feel, same exact same exact process for video games. So like last night I was streaming on Twitch. When I was fighting him for quite a while, I was struggling to hear when he was actually stunned, and
Mm.
I kept getting clapped, and I was like, oh man. But then I mean, like you can I'm hoping to post this on social media at some point, but like you can see the moment where it clicks for me because then I just clap back and I just destroyed him because I could finally I got down the timing.
Mm.
And so like I mean that's half the reason I play video games because like despite what you may think, I'm not really a huge competitive person when it comes to like competing against others. I'm
To
more
be
so
honest, neither am I.
yeah, right. Like I'm more so like competing against myself.
That's it.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so that was oh man, that was just defeating bosses like that is so rewarding. Um just to know that you can do it and kind kind of a little tangent, but I love this little detail in Spider-Man
Uh-huh.
that whenever a lot of the times when you're fighting bosses or even like doing other missions, Peter or Miles will kind of like think out loud and say what you have to do. And
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, that helps out so much because like last night with the boss, like I said, I was having trouble telling when he was stunned. Well, occasionally Peter would be like, gotta get in close. I'm like, oh, he's done. I can go in now. And it's just, I love little details like that.
It's funny because a lot of people complain about
I
that in
know, I
games, and I'm
know.
like, no, but it helps. Like,
Exactly. It helps so much.
oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, so then as a side sort of question, I gotta ask, which feeling is better? Beating a boss in Spider-Man 2 or winning a race in a swim meet?
Definitely beating a boss, hands down. Because,
I figured as much.
dude, I'll tell you why. Like, okay, so this isn't against the the Paralympic organization.
No, of
This
course,
is just kind of the nature of being blind, right? But
right, we love the
oh my God,
Paralympics around here on this podcast. So
yeah,
sure,
you're gonna crack up about this. So basically, anytime throughout my career, if I would win a race, I I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if I won the race until
of course, yeah. 'Cause
after.
how would you know?
And so, like, I remember the first time I won first place, like in high school. I had touched, and everyone, like, the crowd was roaring, and I got out, and I was like, "Did I win? Did I, like, what happened? Like, you got first place?" I was like, "Oh, I did."
I love that.
Oh,
But at least
so
with
funny.
when you're defeating a boss in Spider-Man, like
Exactly. Like, right when I know, like, yes, I did it, and like you get that just huge dopamine rush, like that instant gratification that yes, I did that.
Sure. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's so great. Well, okay, so let's jump ahead into now. Like, you mentioned that after the Paralympics, and then with the pandemic, you started getting into sort of more content creation and consulting for accessibility. So, what got you interested in that? Was it just sort of your interest in video games all along, or was it something that, oh, I can, like, I have like a voice I could be able to add to this community, and I could be able to add my expertise into that, and you just like decided, okay, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was definitely a journey to get there because
Hmm.
I mean, just as game accessibility has grown, so has my confidence and my knowledge. Because, like, let's say when game accessibility wasn't as popular,
Sure.
I would view what I knew kind of just like some sort of niche, like lived experience type thing. But now I've come to realize that I'm just a very detail oriented person. And I think
Mm.
that lends itself well to accessibility. But um, I mean, none of that compares to just all of the people that have come before me and all of the people that have inspired me. Because it wasn't just like, oh, I can make this a career. Oh, I can. It wasn't like that. It was actually just viewing all the other work that people were doing, whether it be you, Super Blind Man, Ian Hamilton, Tara. Like when I decided to dive headfirst into the game accessibility community, that's when like my eyes were open and I realized like this, like I said, is a movement, and I'm not the only one. I think what kind of like hindered my confidence was feeling like I was the only one doing this. But like, if you go searching for other people that are in your corner, like you will find them. And I think that was really really important to me because like in the Paralympics, like no one there played video games. Like I remember at the Olympic Training Center, I tried to like form a Magic the Gathering club, and like no one wanted to play.
Oh,
And
it's such a shame.
I know. And so yeah, it's just like when you find people that have the same passion as you, it really really motivates you. At least for me, like, and it's the same thing. Like when you see other people working out, like it makes you want to get in shape as well. And so that's like just seeing content creators like you, Super Blind Man, everyone, just gave me that confidence. And I think kind of what sealed the deal was honestly when The Last of Us came out.
Mm.
I mean, just you and Brandon were consultants on the game, and that's so like before I had done a little bit of consulting for Madden 2018 with EA back when I lived in Florida.
Mm.
Um, but I very much perceived it as just a one-off thing, almost like a charitable thing. Like, oh yeah, we'll let you tour the place and you can get some feedback. But like then just you guys, when I saw it, you guys did work on the game. Like you were very much involved. It wasn't just like give us your feedback and that's it. Like you guys had a role in the design process and you guys got paid for it and it was on a AAA game. That's
Hmm.
when I was like, game accessibility is here to stay. There's just no way that we're going to take a step backward after this.
Yeah, I think that definitely The Last of Us was a turning point for a lot, like all of us,
Mm-hmm.
really. Even
Mm-hmm.
for those of us who worked on it, like there was like among us, like the 8 sort of a group of core consultants that helped work
Mm-hmm.
on it. It was like we really like it was definitely like a watershed moment. I think. I mean, I've said it before, where it's like The Last of Us was sort of like is the accessibility before The Last of Us and the accessibility afterwards, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Absolutely.
I'm glad that inspired me. Like I very small part of it, but I'm glad that like that the work that was done by us and the team was inspirational in that sort of sense, and realize, okay, yeah, actually this can be done, and now we're at a point where yeah, like blind accessibility is something that we should keep striving for, and be like, okay, now we got an example of how it could work. Let's see if we can
Yeah.
try to be able to make that for other games.
Yeah, exactly. And like I would say advocacy, like especially accessibility advocacy, is overall, in my opinion, like kind of thankless work. Like not all the time, of course, you know what I mean. But like
Sure.
a lot of the times it can be. A lot of times it can be difficult to know if you're making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So like anyone listening, like if you do any sort of advocacy, like it's a huge butterfly effect. Because you just don't know who's seeing your stuff and you don't know like how much it resonates with them. It's like, oh man, I remember again in the Paralympics, like my friends were gonna go play D&D, but I was stuck on trying to play Battlefront by myself independently because I
Mm-hmm.
loved playing that game when I could see. And so I was just getting really, really frustrated. I was like literally brought to tears. And like I remember this was I think when I first like kind of started following Ian and I just messaged him. I was like, when like why don't developers understand that we want to play video games? Da, 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 da. And he was like reassuring. He's like, trust me, like people are listening. But of course, I was like pessimistic back then because there wasn't any evidence of that,
I think
much
a
of it
lot
at
of us
least.
were for sure. So you
Yeah,
definitely weren't alone in that.
yeah, exactly. And so it's just yeah, all I can really say is just thank you to everyone who works in game accessibility because it's a community effort and it pays off when we all work together.
Exactly. It definitely like it's never just one or two like two people. It definitely is a group of us that like a community that when we all work together, because then our voices are much louder and within
Mm-hmm.
the room, and more people are wanting to be able to learn more about accessibility, because whenever like I'm sure like when you consult, it's similar to me, is that we're like having that lived in experience is super essential and
Mm-hmm.
great feedback, no matter what. It's like, oh yeah, it's just it's my own life. It's like I'm only one player amongst so many people are going to be playing this game. It really like it's hard to be able to kind of to realize like, yeah, you do have a lasting impact, but when you go in and you start to kind of and you see the fruits of just the little tiny experiences that we got to
Mm-hmm.
have with it, being like, well, if you just did this, or I would love it if this was here, then it not only improves the game for you so that you can be
Mm-hmm.
able to play it, but
Yeah.
it improves the game for other blind players, but also just for players in general, because
Mm-hmm.
the game is now vastly improved than it was before.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, just when you give people the tools, like, people that you groups, demographics that you don't think would take advantage of those tools just come out of nowhere because you gave them those tools. And so it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, man, just seeing the things that blind gamers have done these days. Like, I would consider myself pretty average gamer, but like, I mean, there are, you see these blind Mortal Kombat tournaments. You see,
Mm-hmm.
the blind Street Fighter player who won an entire tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just so cool to see what people are able to accomplish when they're given the tools, and like it just gives me chills.
Sure. And I love it too, because it like I sort of had this realization literally actually kind of the other day, and you kind of reminded me of it, was
Mhm.
in a sense a lot of what accessibility when we're consulting on these games do is that we get to show examples like this is how it essentially can work, And oftentimes, like I always kind of like I get enamored with like desktop setup videos on YouTube. Like, okay, what are they using on their desks? Like, what kind of PCs or little gadgets do they have on their things, or what kind of monitors do they use? Like stuff like that. Like I'm always fascinated by it. But what I love is that because then I can get inspired to be like, oh, I can use that on my desk and make it so much easier. And I think it's the same with video games. Like when people can be able to see the example of here's how accessibility like can be done and how to build and how it improves a game. In a sense, it's like it can inspire either other consultants or just other game developers be like, oh, we could do that or something similar to that in our game. And then when they do that in their game, then that basically like improves and evolutionizes a lot of the work that we did previously. Which is really cool, because that actually leads me into my next question is that, since The Last of Us has come out, it's been a couple years now. How have you seen blind accessibility improve or like basically or change since or just within the past couple years?
Oh man, yeah. So, first I'll say like, I think because of Last of Us and other games that I'll mention in a second, like we've seen a lot of like hobby developers develop accessibility mods for games on PC, which I think is really cool. But then in terms of like accessibility that is built directly into the games, I mean, oh man, there are so many examples and like so many that I'm impressed with that are just like absolute feats of ingenuity. Like Forza Motorsport, for example, like a blind person, if they buy like a racing wheel, can literally know what it feels like to drive a car at high speeds for the most part, obviously, but like and just like all the different mechanics that went into that are amazing. And then like God of War Ragnarok, like the combat definitely, oh man, it's hard to top combat like that because all the different sound cues, like man, it's just I can't give enough praise for the combat in that game. Because like it's growing up I would always see my friends play these types of games that I wanted to play. I was kind of sort of stuck to like a very specific genre. It was like Pokemon and like 2D fighting games. Like that was it. I wanted to be able to explore. I wanted to be able to fight like different types of enemies and like in a combat environment. And so God of War definitely, Spider-Man 2 has definitely exceeded my expectations in many ways. Just a fully blown screen reader, and I mean I've always loved the haptics in the game, and like I used to play a Spider-Man 2 game on the PS2 when I could see it. It's like I never thought I'd be able to play a Spider-Man game and like swing around New York again and explore. And so I love that. And then I mean I could go on and on, of course, but yeah, I mean just those are definitely like the ones that stand out to me. But then of course huge shout out to indie developers as well, because we have games like Stories of Blossom, Brock the Investigator, like all these games that I think really just goes to show that anyone can make their game accessible. You don't need a massive budget. It can be done. And yeah, I mean, so many good games out there, to be honest.
For sure. No, I like, and all with different types of genres too. I mean, because you have like God of War Ragnarok with like its action adventure. Same with Spider-Man 2. Then you got like Forza with the racing. Like the fact that the accessibility in that is just so dang cool, because it like what I love about it is that while I know it was limited in trying to be able to create like there was so much, there's a lot of like audio noise. It can be, and it can be overwhelming for anyone that's jumping into for the first time that doesn't know how like simulation like racing games like that. But what I love about it is that once you kind of fine tune it like you would an actual car, you can sort of like you can not only go like race around a track, no problem, but you can actually be able to compete, and that is you can actually win races by using that, and like legitimately without having to use like cheat codes or whatever.
I mean, like going back to like blind people competing, like the Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, even Forza, like we are seeing blind drivers compete toe to toe with sighted drivers. And I think that's really the incredible thing. And then also touching on like the genres thing. Like, I my entire life growing up, I've always wanted to have the feeling of A, being like, which game do I want to play today? And B, knowing that like they're different genres. Like I never thought I would be able to do that. And so like it's almost like having trouble picking the game you want to play that day is such a fun and good problem to have.
Isn't it? Instead of
It
being like,
is.
okay, these are the only games I can play, it's now
Uh-huh.
like, what do
Uh-huh.
I want to play? Which is,
Yeah.
I love that feeling so much. And like that's the thing too, like because you also one of the work, a bit of work that you've done,
Mhm.
it would like you also get to help sort of improve what was already kind of like pretty accessible. Like I mean, like of course, Spider-Man 2 was
Mhm.
massively improved by the updates that they put out after launch with
Mhm.
their screen reader and audio descriptions and all the other IDQs that they added in there. But also, like you had a hand in improving what was already great accessibility in As
Mhm.
Dust Falls,
Yeah.
which was so cool because I remember playing that and reviewing that when it first
Mhm.
came out, and I was like, I could see the potential here for like it. It's so close to being a fully
Yeah.
blind accessible game, and I'm like, this could like they just dedicate a little bit extra effort and bring in
Mhm.
other blind consultants that are like it can actively work on blind accessibility. It can be so good. And what you all did for that was incredible. Like the
Yeah.
folks at Interior Night and you
Yeah.
did such a great job on that.
I appreciate it. And like I just have to say, like audio description in video games, I even when Last of Us came out and like I was, starting to dip my toes into game accessibility. Maybe this is like the pessimist in me, but I never thought that audio descriptions would be embraced as much as they
Yeah,
have
to be
been. Like,
honest,
of
same.
course, yeah, like I always thought they were possible, and I thought that maybe eventually it would happen, but I never thought that so many games would have it as soon as this, and I think like that's like really what seals the deal when playing these like story driven games for me. Is like half of it is being able to play the game, but then also being able to experience the world. And I think that's where like I just get sucked into video games. And like a big reason I play video games is definitely for escapism. And so like, man, hours fly by if I'm not careful.
I know. I love that too. Like especially when you have like a game where you like because of the accessibility in there, it sort of prolongs your gaming session instead of being
Uh-huh.
like, well, I'm struggling. I can't, I can only play like an hour or two. But like when you can just jump in and be like, I'm playing this for several hours, and all of a
Uh-huh.
sudden it's like 3 a.m. and you're
I
like, oh
know.
shoot, I should go to bed now.
I remember when I first discovered audio games, one of the very first audio games I played was called Entombed, and it was like a roguelike RPG. I
Mhm.
literally skipped school. Like I took the day off from school and played that. I I'm not even exaggerating, probably like 24 hours straight because I just had
Wow.
never experienced an accessible game. So,
Mhm.
yeah, completely agree.
So, like, when you would like go into consulting, like knowing your
Mhm.
experience, obviously with audio games and and just your gaming experience in general, when you go into a consult, like similar to what you did for like As Does Falls, for example, like when you are hired to consult on a
Mhm.
game, what do you generally start with as far as like advice to the developers?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, I something I try to beat people over the head with is that, in my opinion, this is, of course, casting a wide net. But I think a great place to start to make a game blind accessible is three categories, and that's text to speech, like a screen reader,
Mhm.
sound cues for specific audio or for specific events in the game, and then navigation assistance. And
Mhm.
of course, it all has to be tailored to the game. But in my opinion, that's the lens I kind of view making a game accessible for blind people. Um, Really, you can't go wrong by starting with that. And there's this whole I don't want to even say like a debate, but I guess you could say that like some people are like, oh, a screen reader should be implemented first, or oh, the game should be playable first.
Mm.
Um, I would say that I'm of the opinion that the game should be playable first. Um,
Okay.
Because I like there's nothing wrong with adding a screen reader first.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, but like
Right.
I do think that blind gamers will find a way to play your game if there's no screen reader in it.
Right.
Making the game accessible, it requires a lot of creativity. Implementing a screen reader requires a lot of creativity. So if I had to pick one, you make the game accessible first, because historically over the years, fighting games, they were never meant to, be accessible for blind people, and so they never had screen readers in them. The sound design is what makes them somewhat playable, and so
Right.
that's one of the categories. And then navigation, well, it doesn't really matter in most fighting games, and so you're left with sound design and screen reader for the menus and things like that. Well, blind people would, over the years, literally create like HTML menu guides just so like they can
Mm.
navigate the menus. And I'm not saying like that's what we should rely on, but I'm saying
Right.
blind gamers will find a way if they need to.
Yeah.
So like that's generally how I approach it. But like, what a game needs depends on the game, right? Like
Sure.
you can, like, let's say a game has some screen reader elements in it, but like it doesn't read everything. It's like, okay, well, maybe I just need to read this, but like some other things, if you can't get to it, I would focus on these in-game mechanics first. Because I think the biggest thing is scope, right? Like,
Right.
man, I mean, I used to be guilty of this too. Where it's just like, why don't you just implement a screen reader? Like, just do it, duh.
Just do it. Yeah. Like we've done before. Just do it.
or even like, why not just implement the sound effect? Like, it's so easy, duh. And like I like recently, over the past year, I have been participating in game jams and like working on teams to like make our games blind accessible. And even then I'm just like, oh wow, like this is a lot harder to do
Mm-hmm.
than you would think, because like in video games, like things aren't always separated. Like sounds aren't just sounds, mechanics aren't just mechanics, etc. They're all tied together. They all
Yep.
work together to form this game. And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if you edit one thing, is very much going to impact many other things programmatically that you may
Sure.
not expect at all. And so that's what I kind of try to keep in mind and try to be like realistic and keep it feasible, because you can iterate upon it. Like, and we've seen that with Last of Us, we've seen that with the Spider-Man games. So many
Mm-hmm.
games, there's always next game. And I know people who want the game now, I want to play now. I get that, but it's like, think about screen readers. Like they, like just for using Windows, right? Like they
Yeah.
weren't just perfect right away. Like they're always being iterated upon, and like
Yes.
that's the nature of accessibility. And I mean, that's the nature of design in general, So
Yeah.
I think game accessibility is just catching up to everything, all the game design lessons developers have learned over the years already.
Yes, I 100% agree. Because yeah, like I was in the same boat too. Like I just thought, oh yeah, just throw in a screen reader, like, or just record all the lines or every single bit of text. And like, but we're still at a point where each game that has like a screen reader, it's a very custom slash bespoke version of and a lot of it is just a hack together way to be able to make it work. Like there's so much that goes behind the scenes just to be able to make that, where like even like as an example, like I don't know if you knew this or you found out about this, but with the way that The Last of Us does it, it's not like an API that just reads the text as it sort of comes up. They're all audio files. Like it literally is just they recorded a voice, like a generated voice to read the text, and they just record it all and put it up as audio files, and it plays whenever text comes up.
It is so funny because the game that my game jam team and I are working on right now, like game jams, you're on a time crunch. There's a time limit. You have to submit at a certain time. And so we're all talking and we're just like, how are we going to implement a screen reader and within the engine that we're using? And it didn't take long to figure out, we're just going to have to record these individual files, because it was the quick and dirty way to get it done.
Yeah. I know, because it's like until we get to the point where video game engines are able to be incorporated with a screen reader, which is still very hard to do. It's coming soon for sure. And we're getting to that. We're getting to that point, but that's the thing. It's like it's still like it's still hard to be able to do. It doesn't mean we're saying don't do it, but it's more of we understand that it's going to take some time, and we just got to be a little bit patient with it. in
Mm-hmm.
order for because it is happening. More and more games are starting to incorporate that as part of their either
Mm-hmm.
their engine design or just design process. But I like what you said about making a game like, okay, it's as long as it's playable
Yeah.
first, because a lot, like, yes, okay, sure, having a screen reader being able to be built into the engine is
Mm-hmm.
something that you start with right away if that's something that you're wanting to be able to do and you're building that engine for the game that you're building. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're using it for, for resources purposes, you have like, okay, you know what, we're going to use the, like, say, the Unreal Engine, and it doesn't have a screen reader built in or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You still want to be able to make sure that the game is playable like first, and
Mm-hmm.
that, because that's something you can build off of, and the rest of the systems can kind of be added in a little bit later in the process. But a lot of that design considerations, it's better to be done during that, like, that sort of game design process. And
Mm-hmm.
like, it's being able to like incorporate accessibility overall makes it a lot easier to be able to edit later on.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. Yeah, like starting off with making a game playable first, because that's where the real fun is. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you can have a great screen reader in a game, but if the game's not fun, what's the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah, like to me, like it's kind of like a difference between this is theoretically accessible versus like this is tangibly playable.
Sure.
Yeah, and like I think yeah, we've seen that over the past few years with a lot of games that didn't have a screen reader, but you still had blind people playing them and completing them. And like
Yeah.
occasionally they need a little bit of sighted assistance, but like the majority, they they had a taste of the game. They were able to feel what it felt like to play that game. And I mean, to me, that just makes their voices louder and makes them want to reach out to developers more. Be like, please make this more accessible. And developers hear it. They may not be able to respond all the time, but they hear it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yep, no, for sure. So we kind of talked a little bit, like, obviously, about the past and kind of what we're seeing currently, but from your perspective, like, where do you see like this, like, blind accessibility evolving in the future?
Oh man. So okay. So first, I do think audio description is just going to continuously expand into video games.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just natural, kind of given its progression. I think I have a lot of wishes as well. My biggest wish, and of course, my biggest wish would be to consult on a game like this, is to make an open world game accessible because
Yes.
this, I think, so many like okay, open world like it's the new hot genre right now. Like everyone wants
Sure.
everything to be open world, but I think it especially rings true for blind people because blind people in the real world they they can, but they can't technically just get up and go somewhere. They have to
Right.
plan it. They have to meticulously know their surroundings, and like that's the same thing in a video game. But what if that wasn't the case in a video game? And this is why escapism is so huge because like to have the feeling where you can just log into an open world and just explore.
And
That's the
go
biggest
anywhere.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah, like that's the biggest thing that, in my opinion, blind gamers want. I don't speak for blind gamers, but I hear
Sure.
it all the time. To just be able to explore and find your way to that area without like your hand being held, without you being forced to go there. Just yeah, if I could just say one thing would be to explore.
Yeah.
And so audio description, exploration, and then of course, like more robust TTS, better combat. Like I think those will come with just iterations of new games.
Yeah.
I would love to see a battle royale type game become accessible.
Ooh.
Like if I could play Fortnite one day, if I could be Toph from Avatar wielding a gun, that would be amazing.
I hear you on that one. It's close. It's not like there's a lot of accessibility in there, but
yeah,
it's getting there, and I think that
exactly.
hopefully they could add more to it. That's for sure.
I think it's just a matter of time. And then VR. I was on a panel about it. I definitely think it's coming. I think there's so much potential for blind accessibility in VR games. I do think that it is a different approach than traditional gaming, in my opinion.
Yep.
Not for better or not for worse. I think it's different, and so I'm really, I consulted on Casmonius High, and I'd love to continue consulting for VR games because I do think that there's a ton of potential there. Because I keep saying it, but like escapism is the biggest reason that I
Hmm.
play video games, and socialization. And I think VR lends itself very well to that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, funny enough, I also did work on Cosmonia side
Oh,
too, and
cool. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, when I saw your name as listed as one of the consultants, I'm like, heck yes, we did it.
Yeah.
But it was like, even with games like that, because like I love VR as well. Because
Mhm.
like one of like similar to you, like with your content creation, like one of the videos that went viral for me at the beginning was playing VR for the first time.
Oh,
And
wow.
what I really gravitate towards a lot was with VR was because a lot of times we're playing video games, a lot like sound is coming at you. It's like
Mhm.
you can sort of, when you're wearing headphones, you can kind of sort of figure out like stereo sound, and
Mhm.
that can sort of work. But with VR, because
Yes.
you're placed essentially in a like three-dimensional space, and you can
Yes.
actually move your head and move your body to point towards where there's something that's making a sound, or towards the where you need to be able to go.
Mhm.
It basically, it like, you would think it's like, it sounds silly to be like, oh, VR like could actually be really accessible to blind players, but in reality it's like, actually
Dude,
it's like one of the coolest things for blind
that
players.
that is literally like one of the biggest points I brought up in my panel at South by, was that you wouldn't think it, but it I mean, it's in the name, virtual reality. And
Yep.
so
Yep.
if you are blind and you're given all the tools you need in this game, it's so much more intuitive, because
Mm-hmm.
as a blind person, you'll be able to like hear and orient yourself similar to how you would in the real world. Obviously, like there's a
Yep.
few caveats in terms of like touching physical things,
Sure.
but like in terms of like hearing where things are, verticality to sound, or hearing if it's behind you, like that's huge. And
Yeah.
yeah, I do think like that is kind of like the hard points about traditional gaming, is like sound design has come so far. um but in terms of like being to like aim at something up or down like that, yeah, that still is difficult to do.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
it's getting there, but we're
Yeah,
still a
it
little
is
bit of we need a few more iterations for that
for
to be
sure.
more customizable for sure. So
Hmm.
okay, well, looking into the future, obviously companies are looking into accessibility, especially blind accessibility, and they're
Hmm.
experimenting with certain things. What potential pitfalls would you like to see companies avoid when advancing blind accessibility?
Yeah. So I would say mainly just hand holding. In the sense that I would love more developers to give blind players that agency,
Mm,
in times where they may not have that agency in real life. Because I think that's the beauty of video games. And but I also do think that out of all the disabilities, giving that agency to blind people is the hardest.
sure.
Like
Yeah.
not to discourage anyone, like we already have examples that it can be done,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think it'll take a lot of iterations to get that down. And like I said about the exploration, I
Yeah.
think there may be games that will, kind of do what's been done and kind of just like point you in the direction of the objective. Um, but that's kind of really it, and like just guide you right there. And that takes away from the experience a little bit.
Yeah.
Not from the overall experience of being able to play the game, of course, but like just
Sure.
from navigating. And so I think that is the biggest one. I would also love to see more types of dynamic descriptions, not audio descriptions, but like through TTS, in the sense that in the overworld, like not a cutscene, but like if I'm playing a game, I want to know if I'm walking over a bridge. I want to know
Oh,
if
okay.
yeah, like I want to know if I'm like if I'm flying through the air. I want to know if I'm flying over mountaintops or things like that.
Mm,
Like I think that really helps paint a picture of the world in a more subtle and detailed way. Um
okay.
yeah, I mean that's just we've seen a lot of audio games do that already, and so I would love to see that take place more in video games. But I'm trying to think of like any other pitfalls. Um, I mean, not really. I mean, just like the trajectory of blind accessibility is so good. We've
Yeah.
already seen some really incredible screen readers in video games, like Forza. Diablo, like those screen
Yes.
readers are just top notch. And oh, and Mortal Kombat, like these
Mm-hmm.
are just really, really good screen readers that had the customization.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge part about screen readers, to customize them to your preferences. And
Sure.
so I think we're honestly already on a good track, and I'm really excited to see what developers have cooking for the next few years. Because I would imagine that like some of the things I'm speaking of, they may already be doing, and I just have no idea, you know?
No, that's it. I mean, of course, like there's a ton of games that people are being worked on. It's like,
Uh-huh.
hey, maybe someday. But I like
Yeah.
what you said about the regards to player agency as well, especially when it comes to your example of wanting to have open world games. Because
Mhm.
you could be able to like right now, certain open world games are able to like lead you down the golden path. Like they're able
Mhm.
to get you from point A to point B in regards to the story and keeping you going through into the game. But
Mhm.
when it comes like when giving the player agency is allowing the player to, it's okay to go off the golden path for a bit,
Exactly.
and because then the game will allow you to do that, but then it will also eventually lead you back to the golden path when you want
Exactly.
to.
Exactly.
um
Like I want to get lost in a game.
yeah,
Like I want to get
yeah,
lost in the world you made.
like lost
And
is not in a way of like I don't know where to
yeah,
go, but like lost has been like I spent hours in this region and I didn't do
e-
nothing for the story.
exactly. But it was still a ton of fun.
Yep,
And
yep.
I think we've already seen developers chip away at that. So like in God of War, I believe there is a way to like track a specific objective.
Hmm.
But in Spider-Man 2, like it's fully there. So like
Yes.
I have the confidence that if I see something on the overworld map and I click on it, that I will be led there. And like I think that is again like just huge progress. Like yeah, like I don't even want to say you're on a golden path because I think half the issue with this golden path analogy is that you don't get to pick. But I am
Right.
picking
Yeah.
now. You know,
Yep.
I am picking, and like that's amazing. And
Hmm.
even in Diablo, like uh, this is kind of like by design, the game is meant to be open world, and so like I don't have to follow where they want me to go. And so like
Sure.
I think like if Navisis came to Diablo 4 as well, that would be
Oh,
that would
that'd
be
be
so cool.
great.
Oh, I know. I would.
Oh,
Oh my god, I'd
I've
put so
had
many.
conversations with Drew over at Blizzard,
Yeah,
being like, "Man, if this had nav assist, it would be so good."
dude, I would sink so many hours into
Me
Diablo.
too. Oh,
Oh my,
like it just keep playing into the season. So I mean,
yeah,
hey, if those are Blizzard, or if they're listening / watching, please just
please, yeah,
please, would love to have that happen for sure.
yes.
But
Especially,
yes, sorry, go
or
ahead.
sorry, I just want to say because especially because Diablo's like a live service game, so like it's gonna be
Yeah.
around for a while. So
Sure.
anyway, yeah,
Yeah, I love like especially with the seasons that they built. They're so good. It's like I want to jump in, but I also like,
hmm
man, it just so helped to be able to know like where best to be able to go and how just to get around a dungeon and stuff like that. Oh
hmm
man, that'd be
hmm
great. But yeah, I think you said it right. Like being able to like. Yeah, there's a golden path, I guess, in regards to like, okay, following along with the main storyline, and that's something
hmm
that games try to be able to get you to do. But you're right, like being able to like golden path should be the path that you want to be able to choose. Like whether you want to
exactly.
like, okay, yeah, you go for a story for point A to point C, but then between point C and D, you can go off into point like 2 or 3, and go off in these sidetracks, and it just enhances the game even better.
hmm
And there's even like some side quests that essentially can like let you kind of be like a part of Spider-Man's world. Like even just using that as
hmm
an example, like when you're talking to Haley, or you're
Yeah.
saving that museum, that musical museum, and it's like
hmm
that's just like makes you a part of the neighborhood that you're defending, that you're fighting
Yeah.
like for like when you're trying to be able to protect it from. And so yeah, I think you're right. It's like being able to have that kind of like let us create our own golden path is something that I hope that the studios will be able to look into. And speaking of game developers and what we love to have them look into, what must game developers really understand, in your opinion, to ensure that their games are inclusive to those who are blind and just want to play games? I know we kind of touched on it pretty much a little bit, but what sort of
Yeah.
like encouragement or advice that you would give them, that of those who might be listening or watching right now?
Yeah. So I would say accessibility in general is not a list of checkboxes.
Hmm.
every game is different. Every game has different mechanics, and so you have to get creative with it, and you have to know how these accessibility features will best interface with the design of your game. Um, some games or some people or some games, have accessibility, like a bunch of accessibility features in the options menu, which is great. But then other games try to lean toward being accessible by design, just in general. So you don't have to like tweak all these settings. And like, in my opinion, neither are bad approaches. But you got to know how to do stuff like that. And then do not assume that you know what a community wants, even if there are already examples. Like, do not
Hmm.
look at, Last of Us, God of War, Spider-Man, Forza, and say, okay, we'll just copy that, and it'll be great. It'll be accessible. It may be accessible, but it may, like I said, it may not translate as well to your
Right.
game. And so this is like where really just getting feedback from the community will just go so far, because like we said, disabled people are experts in their own disability with their lived experience. We can't say that enough, really.
Yeah.
um, and they will come up with some truly incredible ideas that you may not have thought of, and other blind people may not have thought of. And so that's why it's also important, um, to try not to find like your token blind person, or just any disability. Like, a lot of these tips are just for any disability. Like,
Sure.
do not think that just because one blind person says this, that's what all blind people think. Because how do I describe this? It's not that, like, if you get an idea from one blind person, doesn't mean their idea is bad at all, and their idea may work.
Hmm.
But like, getting ideas from multiple sources, it's like you can kind of mush them all together and like
Yep.
create, just comes down to just working together. It
Yeah.
just goes a long way, and being creative. I found, just while consulting on games, while creating my own games, there are just yeah, there are just so many things that no one person is going to think of. Like, I've had so many times where, like, even an able-bodied person was like, "Oh, why don't we do this?" And I was like, "That is so smart. I did not think of that." So
Hmm. Yeah. That's for
just
sure.
just get inspiration from everyone, really.
Yeah. And I think you're right.
Hmm.
It's being able to, like, yeah, you can just copy like a bunch of things like from other games in and of itself, but yeah, but those settings may not be like the right idea for your game,
Yeah.
because every game tries to be different, and it may, like, even though there are certain similarities of each of those games that you mentioned, that are, kind of considered sort of universal when it
Hmm.
comes to sort of blind accessibility,
For
but
sure.
it may, some of those things may not be relevant or be the best decision for your game. So that's why you have folks like us, or just other blind players, to basically to kind of, and more blind players to kind of fill that pool of different ideas. And again, kind of what we talked about before, in that certain things can inspire other things, and
Hmm.
an idea can come from somewhere that you may not have thought of, that essentially was a combination of like 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 other different ideas from other blind
Hmm.
players, that just makes your game better because of
Yeah.
that. And that's the thing about accessibility, and like, not just, again, as you said, like, not just for blind accessibility, but just kind of overall accessibility, is that
Hmm.
accessibility just makes games better. Like, it doesn't hinder
Yes.
anything, it doesn't change anyone's vision, it just
Hmm.
makes games better
Oh
for
yeah,
everybody. So
through and through. And I would just encourage developers to think big,
mm,
because I think it can be difficult, no matter who you are, developer, accessibility professional, to be intimidated, or just be like, "Oh wow, this is a really daunting process, and I don't know if we'll be able to do this." But even I'm just like, the implementation of some accessibility features, I'm just blown away with. Like, even I was like, when Forza was announced, I was like, I don't like, how accessible is this actually going to be? How did they pull this off? Like, not saying
mhm.
that it couldn't be, but I was almost a little dubious. And then I played
Sure.
it, I was like, oh wow, this is incredible. Or like, same with audio descriptions. I was like, how are they gonna like seamlessly flow from like cutscene to gameplay and describe and like time all of that, right? But like
Hmm.
it can be done. You just got to think outside the box, and yeah, that's what I'll say. Think outside the box, get creative with it, give yourself time too. Um, like I said before, people want it now. But I would say I would rather developers take the time to get an accessibility feature right than just kind of haphazardly push one out.
Yes.
And we've seen that with some games where like the accessibility has been quote unquote delayed, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, it results in a much, much better experience. So
Yeah, no, totally
yeah.
agree. All right, and the last question I kind of have is that what are like some resources that players and developers can visit to get connected to other blind gamers in the community, and how they can find more games that they can be able to play?
Yeah. So first I want to ask, when is this going up? Because there's
Uh,
something I'm
Not 100% sure, but it's kind of like one of those like this is sort of like for a general audience being like, hey, you can listen to it whenever.
okay. So something I'm really passionate about is consolidation of information.
Okay.
With game accessibility and especially blind accessibility, there is information everywhere for developers or for blind gamers, and it's very scattered and it's very hard to find. And so oftentimes I get people message me saying, how do you play Animal Crossing? How do you play Mortal Kombat? How do you play XYZ? And so a project I'm working on right now, I'm hopefully going to have a prototype ready by the 16th, uh,
Okay.
is the game accessibility or the accessible gaming wiki, where it's a community
Ooh.
driven website that anyone, uh, I'll say approved submitters for now, but eventually anyone can contribute to, just like Wikipedia, but it's entirely based on game accessibility. So whether it be developer resources, whether it be text tutorials and menu guides, like all of this information can be consolidated into one place. That is the goal, because I think that would go a really, really long way. And like just if you just have like a master website of just that branches out to all these great work that people are doing, I
Uh-huh.
think that would really just kind of help progress. But until that comes out, whenever it does,
Yeah.
um, for blind gamers, I mean there's so many. So there is audiogames.net, and it's a good resource, but
Sure.
I think like the website itself is like a bit old. I honestly
It
don't
is a bit
know.
old. Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
don't know like how much longer it's going to be around. Like things are kind of sometimes breaking on it and just things
Hmm.
like that. But then Reddit is a good place. So I moderate and kind of run the disabled gamers subreddit. I've been thinking about doing a blind gamers subreddit. Um, so if I announce that, stay tuned for that. But then finally, um, social media is a great one. Because if you search hashtags like blind gamer, blind gaming, just type these things into social media, into YouTube, into Google.
Hmm.
Because if you don't do that, you fall into the same trap that I did growing up, is that I never thought it was possible, so I didn't even bother looking it up. Um, and so you just constantly be on the lookout, like follow figureheads, just follow, you know, content creators, and then follow your average blind gamer, because
Yep.
you will find so much information that's linked. But again, that's the whole reason why I'm wanting to create this wiki, because so many great resources are posted to social media then are lost to the abyss. There are
Sure.
so many game accessibility discords, but that information can't be found on the web. And so it's just hopefully, yeah, I can have this wiki up and running within the next couple of weeks. I already have like the main infrastructure and everything set up. It's just setting up the pages. But yeah, I can just totally see that expanding into this massive resource, because I think, information knowledge is power, cliche,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, but yeah, it's the truth.
No, for sure. I
Hmm.
definitely agree with you on that one, 100%. And so I will say this, and kind of leaning into my last question is that Funny enough, you're not, the social media has been a resource that is brought up before, even on this podcast. So you're definitely are like a +1 for that for as well. But even for your projects and for anything else that you're doing, I would recommend folks follow Ross specifically, and you can be able to find out where those resources are. But for those who want to be able to follow you, Ross, where can people follow you online?
Yeah, so all of my social media handles are generally some iteration of Ross Minor, but I keep it nice and simple. I have a website, just rossminor.com, and so you can find all about me there, all the things I've worked on, but specifically rossminor.com/links. All of my social media is right there in one place: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Mastodon, everything. And so you can kind of keep up with all relevant things on that page as well. But yeah, so just rossminor.com/links.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ross, for joining me today. It was an amazing conversation, and thank you all so much for watching or listening. And if you have any questions, you can contact either myself, Ross, or the folks at Player Research. And if you want to learn more about what we talked about today, and check out the rest of the series on advancing accessibility, you can be able to check that out at playerresearch.com. Thanks again, and have a great day, and go play some games.